Hello, everyone out there. This is Peter Harris with Commercial Property Advisors. Today's video is on understanding deal funding. So let's get started. In this video, I'm going to explain in great detail and extensive detail what our company's role is concerning funding commercial real estate deals for you as a Protege student. What we do is we provide assistance to you in swimming through the rough waters of funding commercial real estate deals. We do not give you money. Let's get that straight. Commercial funding is by far the most stressful and most time-consuming part of any commercial real estate transaction. Our passion is in teaching you how to navigate through that entire process, from property evaluation, making offers, to negotiating, financing your deal, due diligence, property management, and finally designing and implementing exit strategies. We also are going to show you how to raise money from private investors. We do not give to you private investors. If we gave you money and investors, you would have no skin in the game, and in this partnership, that's not good for neither of us. So raising capital is complex, yet it's rewarding. It's very coachable, yet it requires you getting out of your comfort zone continuously. So as a Protege student, you're going to learn how to raise money from private investors, how to get a commercial loan, how to structure creative financing, how to get a hard money commercial loan, how to use your self-directed IRAs to fund your commercial deals, how crowdfunding works, and how you can use your commercial wholesaling techniques to build up your capital base for future deals, and finally, how to use non-conventional yet established methods of funding your commercial deals. So, the skills you're about to learn about commercial real estate funding are lifelong and invaluable. Okay? Lifelong and invaluable skills. With that said, let's get started. Everything that I'm going to share today applies to apartment buildings, self-storage facilities, office buildings, shopping centers, mobile home parks, industrial parks, and hotels. The topics we're going to discuss today are on raising capital from private investors, 3 extremely important things that you need to know when raising capital. We're going to show you how to set up and structure creative financing. You're going to learn how to work with commercial lenders, usage of and strategies of hard money, how to wholesale your commercial deal to raise capital, how to fund with self-directed IRAs or someone else IRAs, how to use crowdfunding for loans or raising capital, or both, and lastly, peer-to-peer lending to help fund your down payment. Let's start off with this. Let's start off with raising capital from private investors. Who are the funders? Who are these people that are going to give you the money? There are 4 to be exact, okay? 4 funders. Who are these 4? Well, here's who they are. Number 1 is you. Yes, you can be your own investor. That's right. And you should pay yourself a return, right? Or number 2, friends and family or someone that you know, right? It could be a coworker, someone at the gym, friends, your uncle, mom and dad, whoever. Or it could be private investors, partners. We call this syndication, which we'll talk about. Or it could be an institutional investor like a real estate fund that will give you money as a loan or a down payment. All right, so we have these 4 funders. Next is, let's discuss real estate syndication. When you fund a property outside of yourself and you bring in an investor, this is called pooling of money to do a deal. This is called real estate syndication. Okay, in the commercial world, real estate syndication. Get used to that word. It's an effective way for investors to pool their financial resources together to invest in properties much bigger than they could afford on their own. So if you look at a picture, you can see people coming together as one, and the result is that large commercial property to the right. That's the goal. Now, I want to give you a disclosure when working in or even considering syndication. Here it is. We have to consider this official looking sign right here. It says Securities and Exchange Commission. This is known as the SEC. It's a government agency. Its purpose is to protect investors from dangerous or illegal financial practices or fraud by requiring full and accurate financial disclosure by companies. In this case, that would be you if you are raising capital, offering stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or other securities. Other securities could be you raising money. They consider that other securities to the public. That's to your investors. All right. So we have to take in consideration the rules and regulations that are dictated by the SEC. So this is this disclaimer for you. Now, let me share this with you. 3 quick things concerning the SEC and raising capital. Number 1 is don't advertise your capital raising efforts online. Don't do it unless your attorney who set up your deal says it's okay. All right. Number 2, don't promise a certain ROI to anyone. Never tell a person, I promise I can pay you a 10% return. You can't promise. We can project on a deal. We can project what a deal will do, but we can never promise. And lastly, when raising money from anyone other than yourself, get an experienced attorney for their counsel. Certain disclosures you're going to need in whatever state you're doing this in, and the necessary agreements, okay, to make sure everything is legit and solid. Do not do this by yourself. I repeat, do not do this by yourself. Get help, okay? As a company and me as a coach to you, I'm going to do my best to help lay everything out for you. You have to do the work, and you have to get the attorney to make sure everything is okay for your city and your state. Okay? Understand? All right. That was a disclosure I need to get out right away before we begin discussing more on raising capital from private investors. All right. Next, the Protege program, we're going to lay out a blueprint for you from getting your deal under contract to funding it with investors. And, these things you have to really understand before we can even think about investors. Look at the top of the circle. Let's say you have the deal under contract. The next thing you have to understand is how to do due diligence. All right. We have all the agreements, all the checklists, all the coaching you need for each deal. Next is financing. You need our coaching for financing to look at the different options that are available to maximize the return on investment. And lastly, exit strategy. This is where you make the money, right? This is where you make it. And so these 3 things, due diligence, financing, and designing and implementing an exit strategy, these are all things we have to understand up front before we even begin discussing investors. Okay? And that's where the Protege program comes into play, and where our coaching can help you there. All right? Got it? Okay. Now I'm going to move on to 3 extremely important things to know. These are just not 3 important things. These are 3 extremely important things to know that if you don't understand them, you're not going to be successful in raising capital at all. Okay? Number 1 is you have to understand that this is a relationship-based endeavor, right? So I want you to relax, be yourself, and be genuinely interested in the investor. If you're sitting in front of them, they can see that they're just another number to you, you're going to raise $0. Okay? It's a relationship-based business. So relax, be yourself, prepare, and never wing it. Okay? All right. Number 2 is you need to put the investor first and yourself second. All right. So that's how this is. That's the servant leadership I need you to have in your mind. Investor first, you second. Okay? We'll get into more of that a little later. Number 3, your capital raising efforts need to be systematized and structured for efficiency and legal reasons. Okay? That's where the coaching, that's where this program comes into play. And that's where, for the legal reasons, that's why we need to have an attorney. All right? So in combination with coaching and what we can share with you and your attorney, we can make this thing systematized and structured so you can be efficient and do things by the law. Got it? Okay. Now, another thing you're going to learn is You're going to learn how to evaluate your deal so that it looks attractive to investors. You cannot raise a penny unless your deal is attractive to investors. We're going to teach you how to make the deals attractive. Number two, we have to learn how to set a return on investment terms for your investor. For example, are you going to pay them 8% return to money, 5%, whatever? We're going to share that with you. All right. But the bigger question is, what's attractive and what type of return on investment can I offer? Well, let me share this with you. When you think of a deal becoming attractive, right, I want you to look at 1, 2, and 3. Look at number 1. Number 1 means your deal, when you evaluate it, it must be priced under the market, okay? Meaning that the public can buy it for $1 million, but you can buy it for $850, okay? All right, so you're buying it under market. That's the first component of a deal that looks attractive to an investor. The second component would be the income having upside. You know, if the rents are below market and you can take over and do some improvements and raise the rents, that's the upside we're looking for to increase the attractiveness of this deal. Number 3, we need to have an excellent cash on cash return. If your deal only produces a 3% cash on cash return, no one's going to invest with you. Okay? It needs to be an excellent cash on cash return. And all 3 of those things, 1, 2, and 3, will help you set your return on investment. So before we can set any investor returns, the pricing, the rent upside, and the cash on cash return, they all must be good. It must be excellent, right? And then we can discuss investor returns. All right, let's move on here. You want to know the biggest and, in my opinion, the lamest excuse I get from people when it's time to raise capital for a great deal they have under contract. All right, here it is. Peter, I don't know anyone with money. All of my friends and family are broke. All right, that is the lamest excuse to me. And here's the truth. The truth of the matter is, it's because you just don't know anyone yet with money. Okay, that's where coaching comes in. If we can tell you the right things to say, give you the right tools, we put you in the best position to raise capital. So don't think and believe you don't know anyone with money and all your friends and family are broke. You just don't know anyone yet. And number 2, there is more money out there than there are deals today, right? More money chasing after good deals. So money, number 3, money follows deals. You have a good deal, all right, money will chase after it. That's the way the market works. So your job is to put together good deals. That puts you in the best position to raise money from anyone, family, friends, and people you're going to meet. Okay? All right. So we will not let that be an excuse for you. So those of you that are listening to this video, do not use this excuse on me. It's not going to work. All right. You're also going to learn how to produce professional-looking deal material for your investor presentations, which are included in our ePartner software platform. So it's a great platform. It's going to show you how to lay out your returns on investment, your cash and cash, cap rate, pro forma, all that stuff is in there. Number 2, I'm going to show you how to put together really great-looking executive summaries. I mean, these are the ones that I use. This format is the one I use to raise capital for my deals. Number 3, I'm going to give you an elevator pitch, I call it a 10-second commercial to get investors interested. This is something that you use when you're out networking or you meet someone at a supermarket and they ask you, what are you up to? And you can just give them your elevator pitch, all right? Very important to increase your database of investors, okay? And lastly, we're going to give you scripts for investor presentations. So you won't have to make it up. Just use ours. Just make sure it sounds like you. You may have to modify some words and things like that, but it's there for you, okay? And then also we're going to help you build your team of attorneys, CPAs, and advisors and consultants. This is part of your credibility package, okay? You need to have these guys or these girls on your team. And lastly, we're going to help you build a website that shows that you're serious about this business, okay? So, all right. I'm going to move on to this, right? If you want to impress your investors, you'll need to know how to structure various financial scenarios concerning your deal that maximizes the ROI and it being based on the deal's exit strategy. I know that was a mouthful of words. I will give an example. All right, but basically, we're going to look at various return scenarios based upon the deal's exit strategy that will maximize the ROI. Okay, it's really important that you do this when raising capital. So here's an example, so you know what I mean here. All right, so this is Kevin's 24-unit deal. He bought it for $925,000. Down payment was $200,000. The down payments can get from two investors. The rents can be raised by $150 per unit. All right, and here's the reason why. Right, here's some background. Kevin found this deal using our direct mail strategy, and the owner was a guy who Kevin lived in Florida. The owner lives in Alabama. He's out of state. He's had numerous back surgeries, plus getting divorced. So I feel sorry for the guy, but he needs to offload his property. So his motivation was to get rid of it because of those things going on in his life. And so that's why he was not able to pay attention to the property. There's a very, very small mortgage on the property, so he can afford to have low rents because the building pretty much pays for itself really well. But because he's away and because of his personal issues, he's leaving $150 per unit, right, on the table for the next investor, which is our student, Kevin. So if you do the math, $150 times 24 units is $3,600 more income per month, right? Multiply the $3,600 by 12 months for the whole year, it equals $43,200 more of income per year. Now, as you guys know, as your NOI, as your net operating income goes up in a commercial property, the property value goes up as well, right? So it goes up $43,200. That using the NOI method, that equates to a $540,000 increase in value. In this video, I am not going to go over with you the NOI method. If you guys are this far and watching this video, you have watched my videos on YouTube, you have read my book, you know what the NOI method is. I'm not going to go over it, all right? So the $43,200 equates to a $543,000 increase in value in the property, right? So just by Kevin raising the rents over time, he has increased the property value by $540,000. So now that makes his building worth $925 plus $540, which is $1,465,000. All right. So here's a question: how did Kevin structure this deal with his investors? Here's what he did. So his investors are going to earn 8% preferred per year for 5 years plus an equity split. Let me explain that real quick. So 8% preferred means that his investors are going to be paid first before anyone or anything gets paid out. Of course, not including the mortgage gets paid first, but after the mortgage, anything else goes first to the investor. That's preferred. So before Kevin can get paid, the investors get the 8% off the top. Okay, we're going to do that for 5 years. Plus, there's going to be an equity split. So when Kevin sells the property, he's going to split whatever equity has been built up in the property with the investors. Here's Kevin's exit strategy. He's going to complete the rent increases over the next 18 months. And then once the rents are, once the rents are up, Kevin's going to go to the bank and he's going to refinance this loan to pull cash out. It's called a cash out refi. Okay, I have a video on that, so you can check out the video. And he's going to pull out the investor money, right? Remember, he can do that because if you recall, the property value is now higher since he has a higher rent, right? So the property is worth more. There's more equity. You can pull out the equity. So in this case, Kevin's going to pull out just his investor's money of $200,000. So now the investors have their money back, but guess what? They're still entitled to the profit split when Kevin sells, right? So in 5 years. So the investor is going to be very happy, don't you think? Right? Because basically the investors have their money back, but they still get to benefit from the profit split 5 years down the road. It's going to be great, right? So Kevin's going to keep the property long term for cash flow. And guess what? Most likely an investor is going to say, here, Kevin, take my $200,000 again and find the next deal. That's what's most likely going to happen. So to make a long story short, the projected investor return on investment after Kevin sells can be 70%, right? That's quite a bit. And guess what? That's about average, right? And what's happening out there today. So you can get, if you do different types of deals that have upside like this, you can do deals with 100% return. Okay, we can show you how to do that. All right. All right. So hopefully you understand that, how Kevin structured it. All right. So here's a few other popular investor return scenarios. These are just suggestions. All right. So the top one is investors can earn 8% per year for 5 to 7 years. So they're getting just straight interest, right? Next is investors can earn 8% per year for 5 to 7 years. Plus there's a 50-50 equity split when the property is sold. You can do that too. That's very enticing, right? So you tell your investor basically, I'll pay you 8% return the money you invest with me. And in 5 years when I sell the property, I'll split all the profits 50-50 with you. So you can probably double or triple their return on investment that way, okay? Next, number 3, investors earn, this is a little more complicated, so follow me along here. Investors can earn 8% return plus a 70-30 equity split, okay? Not 50-50, but 70-30, 70 towards the investor and 30 towards Kevin, right? And once the property produces a 20% return to the investor, right? Instead of the 8, the equity split goes to 50-50, right? So the investor goes from 8 to 20% return, and then you're going to reward Kevin a little, and then it goes to 50-50 split. Okay, so there's variations of this. I have 3 more variations I can share with you, so that the options are limitless here. All right, okay, so that ends this part on capital raising. I wanted to spend these last 20 minutes on it because it's a very complicated but doable but very rewarding thing to learn how to do. Let's turn our attention to how to structure creative financing, how to creatively fund your deal. All right, so we're going to focus on these 3 techniques: the master lease agreement, the seller carry first mortgage, and the seller carry second mortgage. If you fall under one of the following categories, this is you, right? This is, you're the student. If you have little cash, if you cannot obtain a loan due to poor credit or lack thereof, or you just desire to leverage what cash or resources you currently have, right? We're going to use creative financing. Or let's say you come across a seller who wants to avoid capital gains taxes on profits after sale, we can use creative financing. Or let's say you have a seller who would have to pay a large prepay penalty on his loan if he sells the property, but he needs to sell it, right? We can do something creative here as well, right? Or let's say you have the seller who is ill or has personal circumstances like Kevin's deal with the attorney having back issues and going through a divorce, right? So that causes property to become distressed or underperforming. So we definitely can use seller financing for that type of situation. In fact, our company is really good at finding and identifying and structuring deals around those type of situations and make the most money. Next, what if you come across a seller who needs to sell, but there is no equity in his property? Boy, that's a tough one, right? It's a tough one. But if the deal is still good, we can buy it creatively. And lastly, this is the tried and true person who is tired, he's burnt out, and their property is underperforming. We come across those type of sellers weekly, I would say, with all of our students weekly. And we put together great deals. Let me say this. When you want to structure a creative deals, how you structure it is around the seller's motivations. So we teach our students how to become very good at asking questions and unpeeling, elephants under the carpet to put all the motivations on the table. You bring them to the coach, and we figure out how to structure creative financing through the seller's motivations. Okay, so that's the key. Get good at that. All right, so let's talk about the master lease agreement. This is probably my favorite way of structuring creative deals. Okay, probably my favorite. Been doing it for years all across the country very well. Now, if you look at the second bullet point, some of the close variations to the master lease agreement is called the land contract or contract for deed. They are slightly different, both are, but they're very close to the master lease agreement. So for us, for brevity's sake and simplicity's sake, I'm going to wrap these three all together and call them a master lease agreement. Okay? Now, a little more on the master lease agreement. They've been around for centuries, in fact. Okay? So I didn't make it up. I just learned about it maybe 2 decades ago. Now, think of a master lease as the lease with an option to buy principal, right? The lease option term is usually slated for single-family homes, but for commercial properties, we refer to it as a master lease agreement. All right, so you guys have probably heard, lease with an option to buy or lease options. They usually pertain to single-family homes. In commercial, we call those same things master lease agreements. We leave out the word option for a very good reason. Here's the reason. If you are a seller and you have a $2 million property and it needs to have something creative attached to it, you don't want to have someone to come along and put an option on your property, on your $2 million property, right? So what we do is we call it a master lease agreement, and within the language of the agreement itself, we put the option language in it. Okay, so we leave out the option wording so we don't scare them away. All right, so let me explain it in further detail. Here it is. You will buy the seller's property by giving him a small down payment, or sometimes zero down payment, in exchange for all the rights and privileges of owning and operating the property without legal title changing hands. So at the closing table, you're going to get equitable title, not legal title. And with equitable title, you are entitled to the property's cash flow, most of the tax benefits, and day-to-day management. And because your master lease price and terms are set, all of the upside is yours to keep, which means the more efficient you are, the more money you make. In other words, as you increase the NOI and the property value goes up, what goes up becomes yours, right? So all the seller gets is a monthly payment from you on the interest of the difference between the lease agreement price and what he owes on the property. And once you sell the property, every dollar over the master lease agreement price is your profit. All right. So if you have a master lease agreement of $1 million, and over the course of 3 years you increase the rents and you increase the NOI, now the property is worth 1.5. You owe the owner $1 million, but you created $500,000 that you can take for yourself. That's your profit. Okay? All right. So this is one of my favorite methods. So in summary, the seller gets an easy sell of the property. He gets lease payments on the equity of the property paid every month. He gets freedom from the involvement in the operation of the property, freedom from its headaches, freedom from negative cash flow, freedom from dealing with the repairs and maintenance, freedom of the crazy tenants. All right, he gets freedom from all that. Right? Here's what you get. You get a purchase involving no banks, no lenders, no appraisal. You get all the cash flow above the lease payment. You get an option to buy within a set period of time, and then you get all the profits above the master lease agreement price. All right. So basically, here are the advantages of it. There's no banks. You and the seller can get as creative as you want in deal terms. And by the way, that's what we're good at. So don't think you as a student have to figure out all the creativity. That's what we're here for. Okay. We are the coaches. You get a quick closing, low closing costs, closing as quickly as 7 days. The seller can generate good interest income per month. Maybe that's one of his motivations, right? Let's put the deal together. And the buyer, that's you, can create a good amount of cash flow and equity buildup over time. All right, so that's the master lease. Again, how we structure this is we ask a lot of questions and we try to structure the deal around his motivations. Okay, so get the motivations. All right, let's move on to seller carry first mortgage. All right, so if a seller has no debt on the property, he can act as a bank for you, right? For your financing needs of the purchase of the property. Simply put, he holds the mortgage for you, right? So that's why we call it a seller carry first mortgage. So he's carrying the mortgage for you, the first mortgage. For example, if the purchase price is $500,000 and you put down $50,000, then you would make monthly payments on remaining $450,000 balance, right? That's the owner carry, right? That's the first mortgage. And the loan terms and between you and the seller are agreed upon, right? And normally the loan terms are maybe slightly higher than what today's terms are. But the real question becomes, why would the seller do this for you when he could simply get an investor to cash him out, just be done with the deal, right? So why would he even want to entertain being a bank for you? Well, here's several reasons. Number one, the seller may not want to pay capital gains taxes on the sale, right? Number two, the property is maybe well below market vacancy and in poor physical condition. In that case, you cannot go to a local bank and get a first mortgage because the property suffers from income issues and the curb appeal is horrible. So banks won't finance that. So in that case, seller carry works well. Number three, the property may be in good condition, but the seller kept poor financial documentation. For example, he didn't, maybe his bookkeeping is in handwriting, or he didn't file taxes. And in this case, the lender is going to refuse to lend on this property because the lender wants proof of income and proof of expenses. And if those two things don't exist, they will not do the loan. All right. So seller carry first is the best option. Number four, the seller may need a very quick sale because of a personal circumstance such as illness, death, relocation, divorce, or need for quick cash. All right, just like Kevin's deal. So a seller carry first mortgage or some type of seller financing is the best. All right, okay, that's it for seller carry first mortgage. Let's move on to seller carry second mortgage. Okay, these are very popular as well. In this situation, the owner carry second mortgage, it's been around since the origination of mortgages, that long, hundreds of years. So let's say that you, student out there, you don't have quite enough saved up for a down payment, and you only have 15% of the purchase price, but the lender requirement is 20%, so you're short 5%. Well, the seller can help you by holding a second mortgage for the remaining 5% needed, thereby satisfying the lender's 20% equity requirement. Okay? Now, here's an example to explain that. For example, the purchase price of a 10-unit apartment building is $500,000. The down payment the lender requires is 20% of the purchase price or $100,000. So $100,000 is 20% of $500,000. Okay? Got it? But you only have $75,000, which is only 15% of the purchase price. And in order to satisfy the down payment requirement of the lender, the seller agrees to hold a second mortgage against the property for the remaining $25,000, okay, or the 5%. Now, he does this. Now, everyone's happy. The seller gets to sell the property. You get to purchase the property. And the lender's equity requirement is satisfied. Okay, so that's the seller carry second mortgage. One of the great benefits of the seller carry second mortgage, if you can get him to hold 5% or 10% of the down payment, that just boosts up your cash and cash return greatly. So do a calculation and reduce your down payment by 5%, and then see what it does to your cash and cash return. It shoots it through the roof. All right. Okay. Let's move on here. Now let's discuss commercial lending. Going to Mr. Banker, okay, your local bank, your local commercial banker down the street. All right, I'm going to start off with an example to jump right into this one, okay? So a typical commercial loan terms example, I'm going to use a shopping center here. We're going to use a local bank, okay? Purchase price is $1 million. The lender will lend typically 75% loan to value, that's LTV, or they'll lend, $750,000. So that means your down payment is the other 25%, or $250,000. Okay, so loan to value means they'll give you a loan to the value of the property. So 75% loan to the $1 million value, which is $750,000. Okay, and you do the subtraction. The rest is your down payment. All right. Now, next one is loan terms. Okay, so the loan terms from a local bank are usually low. They're pretty good. So you can just Google today's interest rate, and your loan terms for a shopping center will be right around whatever number you find online. 25 to 30-year amortization, right? Amortization is the payoff schedule, okay? Not when the loan's due. It's the payoff. It's how they spread out the payments. So the payments will be spread out over 25 to 30 years. And when it's due, look at the next term, 5 to 10-year term. It balloons in 5 to 10 years, okay? And so again, it's amortized, or payments are scheduled to be paid out over 25, 30 years, but the loan is due in 5 to 10 years, okay? All right, so the reason why is because commercial lenders don't want to be stuck in the neighborhood with a loan for 30 years. So they would like the option to get out at 5, 7, or 10 years, okay? That's when it balloons. Prepayment penalty. If your loan term is 5 years, if you sell your property and cancel the loan before 5 years, there's a penalty to be paid. It's called a prepay penalty, just like buying a home. Closing costs will be approximately 2% of the loan amount, probably 2.5 to 3 rather than 2. And the loan is assumable. Let's say you want to sell the property, but you don't want to pay their prepay penalty. You can have the new buyer assume the loan if their credit is good and they come with a down payment. Okay, so it's assumable. And very important word, second to the last, is called recourse. Recourse loans mean that you are personally guaranteeing the loan, meaning that if you default on a loan, they get to come after you personally. All right, so this is serious. Recourse loans are probably the most prevalent in commercial. And not until you get around the $3 million figure do you get non-recourse loans where there's no personal guarantee. Okay, so you have to work yourself up from a smaller deal to a medium-sized deal like this, and then you get into the $3 million range where the loans become non-recourse. Okay, they're much safer, right? Because if the property fails in a non-recourse, they can't come after you, your house, or whatever. But when there's recourse, they can. Okay, so a very important term to know here. And last bullet point, it takes about 60 days to close, okay, for a typical commercial loan. Now, here's another typical commercial loan example, but I'm using a self-storage facility. I'm going to use a SBA loan, so Small Business Administration loan program. And there's several out there that work with self-storage facilities. There's probably 3 or 4 of them out there that are that will do 90%. And so take a look yourself. So the purchase price is $1 million. Lender will lend up to 90%. So loan to value. So they'll give you a loan of $900,000. So your down payment becomes $100,000, or to 10%, right? So that's only using an SBA loan. If you went to the lender down the street, it will probably be 25% down payment. But with this SBA program for self-storage only, they'll do 90%. Another thing, SBA doesn't do apartments or shopping centers or office buildings unless you inhabit them yourself. Okay? All right. Now, loan terms. Low interest rates are very competitive with the SBA program. They'll go up to a 30-year amortization. They'll go up to a 25-year term fixed. So that's a great loan. And there is a prepay penalty. Closing costs, again, are between 2 and 3%. It is assumable, right? And it is recourse, okay? But guess what? It takes about 90 days to close. So, yeah, these loans are very good. You can leverage yourself in, but they take a long time to close. So make sure you have a patient seller there, Okay. All right. Now, a little about how we can help you is we have direct lender referrals for you in many U.S. markets, me personally. And we can do all different types of loans. CMBS loans, which means commercial mortgage backed securities programs. I won't even go into that what that is, but agency loans like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, we can do those. SBA loans, conventional, non-conventional loan programs, all of those are available to anyone, okay, including yourself. You're going to learn how to qualify the property, right, and how to qualify yourself for a loan. Lenders look at both. The lenders will look at the property. They're going to look at you and look at the market. So we will make sure that all three are in excellent condition or have potential to be excellent. Next, you're going to learn how to determine which type of commercial loan to use with the different asset types. All right, so it's very important to know which ones to use and when, and which is best to use and why. Do we use bankers or do we use mortgage brokers? Okay, bankers have a salary, so if when you make your application, whether you get approved or not, they get paid, right? Whether you close your deal with them, your loan with them, they get paid. They get paid a salary. The mortgage broker only gets paid when the deal closes because he works on commission, right? So there's pluses and minuses to working with both, all right? So you're going to learn what those are. All right, let's finish up with that, wrap it up there with commercial lender funding. Let's jump onto a much funner topic, and it's called commercial hard money lending, all right? Now, here's a question I have for you, or questions. How do you finance a commercial property if the property suffers from high vacancy or is actually 100% vacant? How do you finance something like that? Next, what if the property's financials are horrible, but the potential's there? How do you finance that? What about if the property needs substantial repairs? It's a mess. It needs substantial renovations, but you know the vision is it could be a great property. How do you finance a property like that, right? Or number 4, the property has large liens on it and judgments, and the seller can't pay it. But you know, if you can cure these things, you have a cash cow potentially, right? By the way, the first 4 things, the first items 1 through 4, we call those value add commercial opportunities. Okay, get used to that term because this is what we go after in our company. This is when you can solve problems in commercial. You can be very successful. You can make a whole lot of money if you can solve problems, right? We've been in this business for a long time, and all we do is solve problems. So hopefully that's why you're here, to help us, to have us show you how to do that. All right, the next one is, what if you have poor credit, but the property is excellent, as it's a superb property, but you can't buy it because your credit's poor? How do you finance something like that, right? Next is, you need to close quickly on a deal that you found, within a week, or you lose the deal that fast. A local lender can't close in a week, right? Remember, it takes them 45 days to close a typical loan, but you have a week to close this deal. And so what do? So these situations are too risky for a conventional bank to consider, but a hard money loan may work, all right? So for these situations, study this page. So when you find deals like this, there's lots of money to be made on these type of deals, but you need to know how to, number 1, finance them. Number 2, how to turn the property around. Okay. Let me give you an example. All right. So let's say you want to buy a 3-story office building, but it's 40% vacant, meaning that it's 60% occupied. So 40% of it, there's no one in it, and there's no income coming from the 40%. So a typical bank will not lend on it because of the high vacancy. It's too risky for them. But a hard money lender would do this deal, right? Because they believe that there's upside there. Now, it's going to cost you, but they would do this. So the seller is willing to sell for $1 million, okay? And we all know that the property is worth $1.65 million if it is 90% leased, okay? So you have a $650,000 upside there if you can get it to 90% leased. The hard money lender would typically lend 70% of the $1 million. So they'll lend you $700,000, but the down payment will be $300,000, but you don't have it. All right. That's okay, because what the seller's going to do, we're going to do something creative here with something you just learned. The seller's willing to hold a second mortgage in the amount of $250,000. All right. So you have a loan of $700,000. The seller is going to give you a loan of $250,000. That's $950,000. The purchase price is $1 million. So you need to come up with $50,000 for the down payment, right? You can do that. Okay, I don't know how you're going to scrape it up, but you better do that. So now the hard money lender is satisfied. He has his equity and he's willing to do it. So let's say you close on the deal and you fast forward 1 year later. The property is 90% occupied. It's stabilized. Everyone is great. You got some long-term tenants in there. You have a good 3 months of stability there. Now you can go to a local lender and get a long-term loan, and pay off the hard money guy and keep their property long-term for cash flow and equity build up. All right. So it's a win for all, right? The seller gets to sell the property. You get to buy property. The hard money guy got paid off. And then you were able to get a long-term loan on this property. All right. So it's a win-win-win for all. I'm going to give you another example using this same example. Okay. Let me change the page here. So I just changed slightly here. All right, so everything here in the first part is the same. And you also need the $300,000 down payment, but you don't have it. But look where it says that's okay. That's okay because you or a friend have a rental property that we can use as collateral for the $300,000, right? So if the rental property has enough collateral to satisfy the hard money lender, they will not require any additional down payment. You just have to pay closing costs. Okay, so it either can be your property or it can be someone else's property to be used as collateral. All right, so hard money guys will do that. So let's fast forward again. A year later, property is 90% occupied. It's stabilized, looking great. Again, you would go to a local lender and you would show him your new stabilized NOI, and they would give you a new long-term loan. You would pay off the hard money loan. You would take the lien off the rental property's collateral, and life is good, right? So win for all on that situation. Okay, so this one here, we just incorporated a little creative financing in a commercial hard money example. All right. Okay, so here is an interesting table here. This compares a conventional loan with a hard money loan. We'll go over this quickly. Look at the interest rates. Look how they differ. 3.5% to 6.5% to 8% to 14%. I've seen them as high as 16%. Right? Upfront costs in a conventional loan is 1%. Hard money loan can be up to 5%. Okay, very expensive. So that means that you don't want to hold this loan very long because it's too expensive. LTV up to 80% on the conventional loan. On a hard money loan, they probably go up to 70. Most will be around 60 to 65. Okay. The term conventional loan will go from 3 years all the way up to 30 years. Look at the hard money loan. It goes from months, not years, 6 months to 18 months. That's about it. The next one, borrower credit. Look how different these are. On a conventional loan, your credit is very important. With a hard money loan, not important. They will underwrite the loan more based upon the asset than you. Okay, so it's called a hard money because it is backed against a hard asset, the property. Okay, that's where you get the term hard money. Prepay penalty, yes on a conventional loan, no on a hard money loan. Closing for a conventional loan, 45 to 60 days. For a hard money loan, it can be 1 to 3 weeks. Big difference, right? Look at the source of funds, institutional for a conventional loan. Hard money loan, just wealthy individuals who come together, pool the money together, and lend it out at 12, 14%. Okay, so there's a difference there. So how we can help you is we provide a national referral system for commercial hard money lenders. Just ask us for the link, we'll give it to you. We also going to give our students specific training on hard money strategies, so you will know which deals require hard money and how to get the deal and yourself approved. And lastly, students are going to get training on by using real deal examples from previous closings. All right, so we do a few of these deals per year using hard money. So a lot of experience there. All right, so let's move on to another topic here. I would like to discuss non-conventional funding. The first one will be wholesaling your commercial deals. What does that have to do with funding your commercial real estate deals? Well, we've had some students that did not have a whole lot of money. All they had was about, $4,000 to $5,000, but they want to do commercial, right? So we told them that you could start off wholesaling commercial, right? You don't even need that much to start to wholesale commercial, and then you can wholesale several commercial deals to build up your capital base, to build up your down payment so that you can do your own deals, right? So basically how it works is you would get the deal under contract, you would find a buyer, you would assign the deal to a buyer for a fee. This is what we call wholesaling, okay? There's no license required, real estate license required. It's an excellent method of raising capital for your future deals. So we have some students that are capable of closing a deal by either raising the money or they have it, but sometimes they get in their due diligence and for some reason they don't want to buy it, but it's still a good deal. So we'll tell them go ahead and wholesale the deal, at least make some money off of it, right? There's no down payment required when you wholesale. The only thing you need earnest money earnest money deposit to tie up the property. We want you to have the property under contract so you can have what we call equitable interest in the property, right? So that you can legally sell the property without having a real estate license, okay? All right. It works on all asset types and sizes anywhere in the U.S. And we provide extensive training on how to wholesale commercial deals. And like I said before, many of our students start here and then go on to fund their own deals themselves through the money they made wholesaling. All right. So let me give you a quick example. This is Donna's example, an actual student. She needed to wholesale as a way to build up her cash reserves so that she could start acquiring her own portfolio. So, excuse me, she started to speak to owners directly by using our marketing strategies. She came across an out-of-state owner of Donna's in Texas, and the owner was in California, and the apartment building was not distressed, but the rents were low because he's way out here in California, and he was really out of touch with the property, so he had no idea what the rent should be, and his property management company was not doing a great job. So Donna evaluated the deal and found that with the higher rents, the property will be worth about $90,000 more. That's great. So we showed her to get the property under contract. So she did that. And then she marketed the deal to buyers, that we showed her how to find. And a local buyer stepped up to the table. Donna assigned the contract or wholesaled it, the deal to the buyer for a fee. And at closing, Donna was paid her wholesale fee and she went on to the next deal. So Donna will do this until she has enough capital to buy her own deals. So that's an example of you not needing a whole lot of money to get the experience of being a part of the entire process while making money. Okay? All right. So that is a non-conventional way to fund your commercial deals. Here's another one. It's using your self-directed IRA, okay, as a way to fund your deals. Now, when I discuss IRA, it could be your IRA or it could be someone else's IRA. Okay, so either or. I read a recent article that there's over $5 trillion in IRAs today in the U.S. that are just sitting there, and they're probably earning 1 or 2%, where they should be earning double digits, from you. All right. So here are some common ways to invest in commercial real estate with a self-directed IRA. Okay, you can do a direct purchase, where the IRA buys the entire property outright using funds in accounts, like a cash buy. right? Or number two, you can structure it this way through a partnerships or tenants in common. We call that TIC or TIC purchases, which combine the investor's IRA funds with other people's IRAs or use them in conjunction with the account owner's personal non-IRA funds. Now, I said a mouthful because some people don't think this is possible. They said this is illegal use of people's IRA, but this is actually legal, 100% legal to do that. Number three, people didn't think you do this as well. Mortgage-backed purchases that can lower the amount of IRA funds needed to buy the property. Basically, you're going to put in a mortgage on the property, and the IRA is going to be as a source of equity to buy the property. And in previous years, we couldn't do this, or they didn't think it was possible. But today, it is possible. And the last one is limited liability corporation, LLCs, interests where the property title is held in the name of the LLC, right? So you can do that type of purchase. In this case, the IRA holds the interest in the LLC rather than title to the investment. Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. All right. So these are 4 ways that you can use your IRA or someone else's IRA to help you fund a deal that you found. Okay. Now let me give you some important things to note when using self-directed IRAs. Number one, the property's buyer is the IRA, not you. Okay, not you. It's the IRA. IRA is the owner. Okay, all the expenses and revenue must go through the IRA. Expenses must be paid by the IRA, and any revenue must remain in the IRA. Okay, you cannot use the property for personal reasons. The property must be treated as an investment, not for immediate benefit of you personally. It belongs to the IRA. Okay. Lastly, maintenance and repairs. This is really important, right? And it cannot be overlooked. Maintenance and repairs must be done by a third party. Okay. In other words, if the IRA owner, that's you, if you own the IRA, if your buddy owns the IRA, provides any sweat equity activities like changing a light bulb, there could be significant penalties. Okay. You would disqualify all the beautiful tax benefits of the IRA if you did something like this. Okay, so very strict requirements and regulations using the IRA. If you want some examples, these are 2 companies that I know of. I'm not going to say, go ahead and use them, but if you wanted to research self-directed IRAs used in this fashion, there's 2 companies I can point you towards to research. The first one called Pensco. Pen, like P-E-N-S-C-O, Pensco.com or Pensco Trust. You can look at those guys. And the other one's called Equity Trust. You can try those guys as well. Those 2 companies do a lot of education. So if you just Google them, get on the mailing list, and you can learn a whole bunch about self-directed IRAs and how to use them to fund your real estate deals. All right. Okay. Next, let's get into a fun topic, crowdfunding, right? So it's a very popular way to fund deals these days. Very popular, gaining steam like crazy, right? So crowdfunding is a method of raising capital through the collective efforts of friends, family, and individual investors, right? So this approach taps into a large pool of people, primarily online platforms such as crowdfunding platforms. So there's these websites that you go on to that you can look at 10 deals, and you can put one of your deals on them. And so if I had money and I wanted to invest in a deal, I could log on to this software, to one of their crowdfunding platforms, and I could put in money into there, and then they would invest it for me. Right? But you want to be on the other side. You want to put your deals there so people can invest in your deals. And that's what we're referring to here, right? So it's a great way to crowdfunding is a great way to leverage outreach and exposure of your deal. Okay. So in other words, it's raising of money through the internet. That's what it is basically. Okay. A few more words on it. Real estate crowdfunding offers certain rewards to borrowers who need funding for the deals. So it can basically help you in two ways. It can provide you a down payment, or it can provide you a loan, okay? Or it can do both. The other advantage is in terms of cost. Crowdfunding may have lower overhead compared to a bank. There's no crowdfunding branch. There's no drive-through or, branch where you can go inside and speak to a teller. It's all done over the internet. 100% of it is, okay? Including the signing of documents, including sending in your money, including getting checks. It's all done online, all right? So all of this can relate to lower fees and lower interest rates for you possibly, all right? So I'm going to go over with you how to get your deal onto a crowdfunding platform, okay? So number one is pick a platform. Here's two off the bat. I am not recommending these two. These are just two that, I get regular notices from, and their deals are interesting. The first one is realtymogul.com. The other one is realtyshares.com. So check them out, see how they operate. They're both very educational too, so check it out. Number two is once you have your deal ready, you will submit an application. You provide your deal information on their online application form. Then number three, to get approved, you're going to have to send them additional information about the deal, about your background, credit check. They're going to see if you are experienced, if you have good credit, if you have a track record of success. They're going to check all that out. Remember, if they approve your deal to be on a platform, other people are going to invest in your deal. So you really have to have a good track record. All right. So if this is your first deal ever, crowdfunding is not for you. Okay, it's not for you. All right. But if you have experience, let's go number four. You're going to be able to attract investors. So once your deal is approved, they're going to place it on their platform, and then accredited investors get notified there's a deal, and they can invest in your project. And number five, so far as the raising of the capital part, deals can be funded within 24 hours, some a week. But it's pretty quick. I mean, that's how powerful crowdfunding is today. And number six, approved funding. That can take once the capital is raised and your file is closed because the capital requirements met. 5 days, for you to get your money. So it's very efficient, very powerful, and I think the way of the future. All right. Okay. So that's enough with crowdfunding. I'd like to move on to something that's really non-conventional, and that is using peer-to-peer lenders for funding for your down payment. Okay. Now, what is peer-to-peer funding? Well, number one, it's not a bank. All right. Peer-to-peer lenders, we call them P2P lenders. They remove the middleman between the lenders and you, the borrower. So peer-to-peer lending essentially involves consumer investors giving loans to borrowers through online platforms such as Sophie or Lending Club or Prosper. Lending Club is on the TV, on television these days, on the radio also. So I'm sure you heard of Lending Club, right? So that's what we call a peer-to-peer lender. They provide personal loans is basically what they do. So they help borrowers and lenders connect with each other, and they make sure the borrower has good enough credit to qualify the loan. So it's all done online, all of it, right? There's no branch to go to, okay? This is all technology, all online. So typically we use peer-to-peer lenders for down payments only because it's restricted to smaller amounts, such as they'll give you a personal loan between $25,000 and $100,000. Right? Here's a quick example. We had a student with a nice paying job and good credit who needed about $70,000 to close on his first commercial deal. He contacted Sophie, and within 2 days, he was approved for $75,000. Interest rate was about 7%, and the loan was good for 36 months or 3 years. So it was let me just share here. As I mentioned earlier, it is for smaller down payment amounts. It's for deals where you come up a little short funding-wise before closing, or it's for deals where you can't get any more money from your private investors, or it's for smaller deals where you choose not to use money from private investors. Okay, so we can use all of that. Now, some key pointers here for using peer-to-peer lending is your credit is highly dependent upon your credit and your income. So if you have a decent paying job and good credit, you're going to get really good terms, right? Interest rates range from 6% to 30%. Yes, 30%. Loans range from length of 3 to 7 years, and you can get your funds in 1 day or to 1 week, how long it takes. But one thing I want you to do is always factor in your loans payment into your cash flow evaluation. Here's what I mean. When we do a normal calculation, right, for commercial real estate, we have the income minus the expenses minus the mortgage equals the cash flow, right? So now what you're going to have is you're going to have the income minus the expenses minus the mortgage minus your peer-to-peer loan mortgage, your payment, equals your cash flow. So you're going to have two debts to service there, okay? Two mortgage payments or two loan payments there, okay? So make sure you factor that in when you're using this type of lending for your down payment. All right, okay. Now let's summarize. So in this last 1 hour, I shared with you raising capital from private investors. 3 extremely important things to know. You can tell they were focused on relationships because this is a relationship-based business. You learned how to set up and structure creative financing using the master lease, seller carry first mortgage, seller carry second mortgage. I share with you the basics of working with commercial lenders and what they can offer and what the terms are. We studied the usage and strategies of hard money, okay? And we also did an example of using hard money in one of the creative techniques. You also learned how to wholesale commercial deals to raise capital. This is for some students who don't have a whole lot of capital, and this is a great way to build up your capital to buy your own deals. We also learned how to fund your deals with your self-directed IRAs or someone else's. And we also learned a little bit about crowdfunding, all right, for loans and raising capital. And lastly, peer-to-peer lending to fund your down payment. All right, so I think you're ready to go. So let's get out there. Let's get busy. Let's do some deals. Thanks for your time today. And I hope you understood how, as a company, we can help you in funding your commercial real estate deals. All right, this is Peter Harris, Commercial Property Advisors, and I'll see you at the next deal.